Welcome to the Breathe Believe podcast show where I am your host, Bree, and I am so excited to introduce you to an amazing family friend. I freaking love her. She is badass. We have 20 plus years of history together and a whole bunch of chaos that we may or may not share with you, but this girl is incredible and I am excited to have her. So welcome, Brittany. Thanks for joining me. So I was thinking today we could talk about marriage and open that up and really just give different viewpoints of really just your experience, if we can start there. And
oh yeah, we can definitely start. I guess I'll give a little bit of background on where I started, because I'm 25 now and I can proudly say I've been divorced twice by 25, which is not what you want everyone to hear. That's not the most exciting thing to say in the world. But I got married at 19. I was married for just about 5 years the first time, with that person for about 6.5 years in total, and got out of that situation, went separate ways, and then I got remarried not too long after that, thinking everything was great, and before I knew it, I was sitting by myself again, and I was like, what in the world is going on? Right. So the concept of marriage is a little all over the place, I think, in a lot of ways of life. And nowadays, I think the concept of marriage is unfortunately going out the window.
Right.
You know, and I think people have lost the structure of it, or the idea of what marriage actually is, and the commitment to it.
Yes, I agree with that. And I love that you said that you are 25 and you've been divorced twice. And I love that you said that, because there's other females who have been divorced and they don't own that. They're just tucking that away and they don't own it. So I think it's really beautiful that you're like, yeah, this is my path.
It is. And it's interesting because I've already had the people go around that say, oh, you know, I don't know if I talked to her because she's been divorced, you know, and I feel like people hear the word divorce and they're like, run for the hills, you know, because if you do look at the concept of marriage the past 10 years, when people did get divorced, it was a really bad situation, right? Because the idea of marriage was a solid structure. And nowadays, people don't understand that if someone got divorced, it may not actually be because someone was being abused or beaten or something crazy. It does happen, but it could have been more of an emotional abusive situation, or the fact that two people did not understand what it took to be committed, and they weren't actually meant for each other.
Yes.
And the idea, we live in a world where commitment's not a big deal, but I feel like nowadays everyone is struggling with themselves a lot more, so they grab onto what they can find, and typically that's another person, right? Mm-hmm. We get that codependency from people, and so we get married because we fall in love for that temporary time, everything's great, and then you settle in and you realize you may not entirely know who you are, they may not entirely know who they are, and the pieces don't click, they start to fade, because you actually start finding yourself, and you find yourself going different directions.
Yeah.
And then you end up where you are. So I get people all the time who have been like, oh, you know, she could be divorced twice. And I said, oh, no, maybe even 3 times. You don't know till you talk to me. But I had to laugh at it because, like, yeah, it sucks. It's an unfortunate situation. But at the same time, I had to look at my situations and be like, God had a path for me in a specific way. So there's got to be things that I took from both of those. And there are key things that I took from both that I had to have in life to find myself now.
Right.
You know, but it's also another thing to say that there's always 2 sides to marriage. Yes, there could be an abuser. Yes, it could fall heavily on one other person's side, which is typically the case. But there are 2 sides to everything, and both people play a role in marriage. So there are things that I know that I could have done better and could have looked at in a better way. And so I've just chosen to take those things and build myself from that point.
I love that. I love the concept of commitment that you're sharing, because it's all over social media, right? It's be your own independent boss, or it's either discounting marriage and saying don't get married, or you get married and then it's so easy to just choose out when it gets hard.
Yeah, and there's always something better. That's the thing that everyone gets messed up in their brain, is they have this concept of there's always something better. Yeah, you can find someone different, like attractiveness in people. We all think different people are attractive. But if we have that mindset that there could always be something better, we'll never be in love with someone.
Yeah, we'll never be content. Happy. Right, and not find ourselves. And I especially love what you shared when you said you have to have a foundation. So I want to ask you next, for you, after going through your divorces and your experiences, what have you found has been your foundation? Like, what, if someone were to ask you, what's your foundation, right, going into your 3rd marriage?
For me, I think the biggest thing I took away was learning to love myself and what I need out of life. I think going into my first marriage, I was young. I was 19. The idea of love, everyone was getting married here. And that's definitely a cultural thing where we're at more so. But
we're in Utah.
It was like the idea that, oh, this person loves me. We could be this happy little family. But if you asked me what I wanted at 19, it was not what I did. What I wanted at 19 was to be single, to go live my life and my career, build a foundation, and really not seriously take that until now, being 25. But I didn't. I went and got married, and I don't regret the decision. It was one of the best things that ever happened to me. And I found out that I got married and didn't know who I was. I didn't understand the reality of living with someone, sharing a life with them. And I didn't understand the concept of truly getting to know somebody.
Right.
I really didn't do that. And then we found ourselves in a situation where either of us wanted different things in life, and we had our own personal struggles, and I left that situation totally broken.
Yes.
More so broken than when I started, and it wasn't because he did anything to mentally hurt me. It was the fact that I didn't know who I was at all at that point, because I didn't know who I was prior. So now I was floating in limbo until I met my last ex. And as short of that, of like a situation that was the first time that someone looked at me and said, this is what you could be, and this is probably where you want to go with your life, and gave me that structure again.
Yeah, right.
So in a way, I know we met for a reason. I'll never not think that, and I'll never not be grateful for the experience, because I found someone who had found a little more of a foundation in themselves and helped me build myself and find what I needed. And at that point, it didn't come down to, we just didn't love each other. We both realized what we deserved in life, but we had to go different directions, because what we didn't deserve was each other.
Right. And I love when you say that you had to do self-discovery to figure out what you actually valued, which was yourself the whole time. So and I've been divorced twice by the age of 26, so I'm right there with you. And I love our viewpoint. We probably have viewers and other people listening who don't share this concept, because you say you're grateful. So in one coin, it was the most hardest, damaging, heartbreaking thing you've gone through. And on the flip side, it was the reason why you were able to stand taller, be grateful, and then learn who you were. And I love that perspective of love doesn't have to leave. There's a lot of people that struggle with the forgiveness process and figuring out that actually love didn't leave just because it ended. It was just recognizing that you entered into a contract without knowing, A, who am I? And then B, what do you carry behind you? Which brings me up to the next topic, which was the interesting awareness of the childhood trauma that comes up from other people. And when you enter the contract and when you get married, it's funny how all of the pain comes to surface.
They do. I had this conversation with someone the other day, because I told him, I said, when you're married, you just view dating different. I don't care who you are, what happens. You may be with someone and date them for 2.5 years, but the day you get married, it's like, all my life issues are on a plate. Here you go. It's strange, because you can talk about it, you can go through things, but at the end of the day, it's like all of it surfaces.
Right.
Because childhood trauma, or whatever it is you may go through, that's what builds us, right? That's what makes our foundation.
Right.
And unfortunately, some people have been through a lot worse than others. Doesn't mean anyone doesn't deserve happiness.
Right.
Sometimes that's a good thing. Other times it's not. And you get to that point where you're like, because of those things, when you reach the age of 25 and up, you really start to cope with those things, right? Those personality types really start to form, because at that point you're settling mentally with yourself. And instead of going through the mental process of growing and all these things, you're now settling and being who you're going to be. So those issues don't present themselves at 18, 19, because you're still growing. Your brain's taking everything in. It's not pushing it back out to reflect who you are.
Right.
So a lot of people get to that point where they don't know who they are, and they present, and they're like, oh wait, maybe I don't know how to emotionally handle this now, because I'm not learning from it. It's just happening at that point.
Right.
There's not a progression, and I mean, you kind of have to hit a low to realize that. I can tell you, people ask me all the time why I was married for almost 5.5 years, when it wasn't good for 2 of those years, and towards the end, like, we knew it wasn't going to end up working out.
Right.
And I said it wasn't because I just wanted to stay and wasn't ready to leave. I had to hurt to know what I deserve better. I spent every day for a year crying in my car.
Yes.
Feeling that pain and coping with myself, and mentally asking myself, do I really deserve better? Is this something I'm doing? And is this the love I really need?
Yes.
And I just got to a point where I finally woke up one day after several days of crying, and I sat there and I said, you know what, Heavenly Father, I have to have more.
Yes.
And I have to be a little bit selfish. And I'm not a selfish person. I'm very I'll help everyone before I help myself.
Right.
Which is probably why
Yes.
I stayed longer than both of us potentially could stay. Because I wanted to help. I wanted to do my role. I wanted to do everything I could to understand why we had the struggles that we did. I did not want to be there and just give up. That was not my goal going into that. But I finally got to a point where I said, what do I actually deserve? And I think the reason a lot of women and men, and it goes both ways, stay in the marriages they do, because they are scared to say that they deserve better, because no one wants to be the selfish person to leave.
Right.
But at the end of the day, you're not being selfish. You're giving you and the other person the opportunity to find a better happiness.
Right.
That doesn't give you the excuse to just go get divorced if it's hard.
Right.
I mean, that's why I was married for 5 years the first time.
Right. And I think everyone knows when there's a difference between, like we talked about, I'm not committed, this is hard and I'm out,
right,
see ya,
versus
I'm on to the next one, right? And then there's a difference of, hey, I know I don't deserve this abuse, or I know I don't deserve this, and to be honest, you know when it's done, like you know.
You wake up and you look at that person and you both can seriously say, yeah, we're roommates.
And then the perspective, it changes.
Everything
and it's one little word. It's like, is it selfish or is it courageous? Because I'm sure you could agree, we've been in each other's lives for many, many years. People will stay in marriages even when they know they deserve better, but it's comfortable. Because like you said, that codependency kicks in.
It does. And then it's more comfortable because you don't know how to be your own person after marriage, so why would you leave?
Right,
when it's the only thing you have to hang on to.
Right.
And I think a lot of people struggle with this, and I feel bad because it is hard, and you should stay until you really ask yourself if you deserve more. And I can tell you, taking that first leap off that cliff of the unknown is the hardest thing the hardest thing I ever did was walk out the door.
That
was one of the worst moments in my entire life to make that decision. But I walked out that door knowing that there was something better in life for both of us, not just me. It was not I deserve better. It was we both deserve a different kind of happiness.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? So I love your vulnerability of talking about crying in the car. My story was crying alone every night. Like, we lived together, and you say roommates, and I can't tell you how many nights I fell asleep by myself, and how many times I was left, and how many times he just didn't come home. And so there's these different things that we go through, right? Like the foundation of, holy crap, do I choose me or do I choose divorce? And I love what you said, because it's like we're brainwashed almost, or trained to take care of everybody else's needs but our own. And then we get to a point where we resent everyone, whether it's our spouse or whoever we're like committed to. And we're like, what the hell? Like, I have needs too, but we haven't chosen us for so long that it feels scary almost to be like, yeah, these are my dreams and these are my passions. And to come into a healthy place where two people can both be independent and both be whole, instead of half of a person completing the other half, right?
Exactly. And I tell people, they said, I've had several people ask me, what is my take on marriage? Or are you ever getting married again?
Ooh, hot question.
Laugh, right? It is a hot question.
Yeah.
Am I getting married soon? Absolutely not. Because I don't believe in the idea of marriage. I loved having a spouse. That was the best thing that's ever happened, was having another half.
Yep.
But I get to be me. I get to experience life for myself like I had wanted to at 18, 19. So I'm going to enjoy that. But I tell people, I said, marriage is a separate box you go into, and there are several doors in the idea of marriage. There's your love language, there's your communication, there's your time spent together, there's your careers together, there's your kids together, there's all these doors you go through, right?
Right.
And divorce sits at the very end of the hallway. That door is like sealed shut.
Right.
And that door should never be talked about. It should not be an option. When you go to marry someone, you make that commitment that's life. And when you struggle, you have 15 doors to understand that struggle before the divorce door is there.
Right. That's true.
The idea of that is, you don't just get to peek in those doors. You go through every single one of those doors at least 5 times before you even consider that end door can even be unlocked.
Right.
Because you married this person for a reason. Obviously, you love them. I would hope you would love them if you married them. If not, then you probably do have some issues.
Right.
But if you married that person because you truly loved them and saw life together, then those doors have information in them that you need to understand before you can't love them anymore.
Right.
So that's what I did. We went to couples counseling. Like, I read books, everything I could figure out how to understand my other half. And I went through every one of those doors at least 5 times. And it took me 5 years to do so.
And it's crazy, right?
And I got through all of them at least 5 times. And I finally asked myself, okay, Brady, you have done everything you can humanly think of. Are you truly at the end of your rope? Are you hanging from a thread?
Do you choose you?
There's no more doors. And that's why I ended up taking that door. Was the word divorce ever mentioned? And right off the bat, no.
Right.
Even when I knew things were going south, that wasn't a door that I allowed myself to be comfortable talking about, because I still was going to work for everything until I finally got there and said, I really have done everything.
Right.
And at this point, I've done everything. We're still not hitting the same page. We're not giving what we need, or it's not clicking for us.
Yeah.
This really
is. And it's beautiful, because some people look at it like, oh, I lost that person. And I love that you're saying, okay, I went through that door and what I found was me, my self-worth. And really it comes down to self-worth, I believe. And I love our experiences, because we've both been divorced by 25, 26. We're obviously family members, all this stuff. But here's what's really crazy is I coach women to help break the pattern and to break the cycle. And it's okay to choose different from what your parents gave you. But I love that you had a foundation, if we use that word, where your parents are freaking happy and they're together and they've only been married once, where I had the exact opposite experience and my parents were divorced each 3 times. And what's fascinating is that we both can relate, even though we come from different childhoods, to the same conclusion, which was you have to be taught by the pain. Otherwise, you really do lose the whole
Yep.
experience altogether. Like,
Exactly.
you lose it.
And a lot of people think, because my parents have been divorced, it's guaranteed I'm going to get a divorce.
Right.
Now, the reason that's being said is because if you grew up in a broken family, that's what you say, right? When you grew up
Yeah.
with divorced parents, you aren't really taught about a stable foundation. That is correct. You're not really
Right.
taught about the wholes in the family, but that doesn't mean that you can't create that for yourself, which is where your own mental foundation comes in. You can either grow up and say, I had divorced parents, life was miserable, I'm never going to find the true happiness because I don't know what it's like because my parents didn't have it. Or you look at it and you can say, that is unfortunate that they did, but I'm going to strive for that.
Right.
And I will do everything I can. And when you build that mental foundation of that, that's when you find who you are and you have even stronger relationships. Like I am blessed that my parents have been together for as long as they have. That is a very uncommon thing nowadays.
It is.
Right. And I know sometimes they don't know how to help me because they didn't have to go through what I went through.
Right.
And I told them, I said, it's nothing you guys did. You taught me the concept of family. I made the decisions I made. I just had to build a better foundation for myself. So when I truly find my person, it'll be a much better, everlasting experience.
I love what you just said because it gives people hope to try again. Because, there are people that get jaded and they build walls and they say screw men and hate them and whatever. But I love what you're saying because it's like, I get to know that because it's been a hard journey, when I do find that healthy, fulfilling, wonderful person, I'm going to value him or her that much more. And then I'm going to really already be aligned with who I am because I figured out who I was. So I'm going to only date people that match who I am.
Exactly.
And then you appreciate it and you fight less. And I think you could agree when you love yourself, there's something attractive about that. Like sexy is when you love yourself. It's not always just looks because...
No, it is. And
Right.
it's funny, I've had a lot more people reach out to me. For anyone who's ever been divorced, it's amazing to see the DMs, the messages that come in your life right after, right? It's always funny.
What's going on?
It does, right?
Right.
People who have waited for you. It's weird.
Yes.
But it's been interesting to see who has come into my life and what people have said about me. I had some people come between, they're like, I bet boys hit you up every day. And I was like, no, not in that kind of way. I said, it's interesting to see who messages me. And I ask them why. I've asked every single person that has asked me on a date or things like that, why, what did you see? And they said, it's the confidence you carry.
Confidence.
It radiates.
Key.
It's not that you're pretty or you look this and that. I mean, yes, those things are all involved as to why you're attracted to somebody, but
Right.
it's the confidence that I know who I am and what I will and will not tolerate.
Right. And I think that's a missing piece, and not just women, like you said, it's
It's
men
men.
too. It's that we're so not confident, and we have this belief, and I love talking about beliefs of if we don't make it work with this one person, then it's the end of the world.
Right.
Like there's
never
not
gonna find again.
Right.
And and some people have to be married, divorced, and get back together to refine why they fell in love. And that is the thing. And I tell people, I said, if that's what it takes you to be with that person forever, great. Do what you have to do
Right.
to be with that person. It doesn't mean you're never gonna not be with that. It's just the time you met may have not aligned the way it needed to be.
right. Timing is everything, and it's huge. So, and that just leads me to my next question, which you kind of answered. But when it does come time to get married, do you see yourself being that person again? Like, are you afraid of love after those experiences?
That's a very interesting question. A portion of me is, because my version of what I thought was love was not real. It was I can't say it wasn't real, because I loved both the men that I married, but what happened fell apart very fast, and I think my version of love is very twisted.
I love that.
So I don't know if I've seen the pure, wholesome part of it, and so the idea scares me, and I can tell you right now, like, I can go on dates with people, I can feel things for people, but my heart, I don't think will be fully ready to love for a little while, which is great, because now, instead of sitting here and saying, I never can be in love, or I can't find someone I love, I'm getting the opportunity to truly know what love actually is from an extended point of view.
Right, to know that you are loved. Like
and
you are that.
The thing that I really needed to learn from marriage is that I need to date longer. That was something that I didn't do well enough, and I'm very open about that. So, in a way, me not trusting love off the bat isn't a bad thing, because it's allowing me to take a much longer time to trust the process and truly know someone. I'm
Right.
grateful
Right.
that I have that. So I think it's 100% possible to truly love someone again, but it's a matter of learning to love in bits and pieces and not jumping right into something. Like, if you find your person, I mean, seriously, if you find him and you know, that's my personal life, that's great. That doesn't mean you have to get married tomorrow, because obviously they're not going anywhere. So just go enjoy life together.
Right. Right.
Before you make that commitment. Seriously. I tell people, I said, I know you love them and I know you want to marry them, and it's great, but you two still got to grow in a couple ways, most likely, and you're in that high of the moment. So,
are you in hormones or are you in love?
Exactly.
Right? Like,
so I'm like,
new?
great. If you know that's your person, they're clearly not going anywhere. So just go enjoy life.
Yes, and build it.
And that love changes. If you've ever been married, you know the concept, the idea of love changes entirely as you're married.
Right, and we don't always understand love because it's the most. I love this part of the philosophy. It is the most misused word. I love pizza. I love that.
Right?
I love this. I love you. And it's like, well, actually. What is it? Like, what's
and when
love?
and when you truly love someone, it's not that you truly love them because they're attractive or they have good goals in life. You love someone because you two will fight together till you die.
Yeah.
You will build that foundation to live life through everything good and bad that happens.
Right.
That's love. Love isn't that you looked pretty today because you're not going to look pretty when you're 90. I promise you that idea of that changes. You know? It's when you love someone, it's because you fell in love with the way they lived life and you lived life together.
I love that you share that. So you said that you learned in your 2 divorces that your takeaway was to date longer. And my takeaway is entirely different than yours, which is awesome because I was in addiction to hope and picking partners that I believe needed rescued and would take them to my righteous way of living. And a lot of women are under the idea that it's our job to fix and to change, and that screws with it.
And that is a fault of mine too.
Right.
I have a love for people. I love to help people, and I think in my brain, I had people that I had married who we both carried baggage, and in my thought process was, well, if we live together, we can be a good influence and carry each other through life. When the reality was, they have to be confident in those issues, and I have to be confident in mine, and then we just build a life on top of that.
Right.
Guide them to find their portion of life. Because if you sit there and guide someone, you end up taking care of a child.
Right, and then
you end up taking care of someone who's broken, and they can't physically give you that love. Not because they don't want to love you, they are not mentally in the best spot to do so. So they cannot physically give you what you love, which then becomes a codependent relationship.
It's the capacity, right? Like you have a huge capacity, and so you're like, well, I've got such huge capacity, I'll take care of me and you. And it's interesting because it's a different idea to tell people all over the world, like, actually, what if you didn't fall into that trap society gives you, and you fell into the idea that they could be whole and take care of themselves, and you could take care of yourself, and it's not selfish. I think that's a really triggering word to a lot of people. It's not selfish to love you. It's just being solid in knowing. I go back to the idea, like, you could leave tomorrow and I'd still be good. And it's not that you want that or wish it. It's just the idea is, relationships change and love morphs, is like you're saying. And you don't need to go and hero them. There's a huge difference between being understanding and compassionate and having empathy and then misusing it.
And we also live in a world where you can't be hurt by someone. You can't be offended by somebody. I can tell you the best thing that will ever happen to you is reaching rock bottom and hurting.
Amen.
Because
we're done.
You don't know love until you know pain.
Yeah.
You don't know beauty till you see ugly and evil. And I can tell you, like, the biggest thing I've told women who have asked me, even men, what to take out of marriage is, if you're in a bad marriage, whether anyone knows it or not, and you mentally wake up every day questioning yourself, there probably is something really wrong. And if you know you deserve better, but you don't want to break that family structure, I promise you, it would be the hardest thing you'd ever do. And yeah, you're going to hurt like hell afterwards. But the love you will find and gain from yourself again will be worth more than you ever put sitting there sad every day.
Every freaking day.
And it's hard. And when you have kids, that's an even harder aspect. I didn't have children. I am grateful for that. I mean, children are the biggest blessing in the world. That didn't happen for me in that time frame. It was probably a good thing because that does change how much harder you have to fight. But if you're miserable, mentally, emotionally, whether you show it, your children will see it.
I'm a byproduct. You're so right.
They will 100% feel it. And if you know you deserve better and your kids deserve better and you can show them a happier you, even if that means being divorced, they will be a happier person.
I love that. Yeah, I love that because I have a lot of people judge my parents and they don't understand it, right? If you don't come from divorce, you're like, wow, you are unlovable. Something must have broken your home. Yeah, you've lost your shit. But I really love that because I had a mom who chose her and she chose her over and over again. And it didn't matter how many times it took her to find her. But that modeled behavior was so much better than watching two unhealthy parents fight all the time and feeling like, oh, you're broken. And, coming from, I was like you. I went to church to find answers and to leaders and to counsel, the 12-step program. I'll do whatever, even though I'm not the one with the pornography issue. I'll show up, right? And I think what's really awesome is understanding that we all carry shame and we all carry our own stories and we all carry our insecurities. It's just, how vulnerable are you willing to get? It's like you hide it when you're dating, right? You're like, look how freaking amazing I am. And then you get married or live together together or just spend, half a minute together outside of, what face you're putting on and find out, wow, there's actually way more below than you're showing me.
And it was funny because both marriages I went to counseling the first time. Second time, we just realized that we both needed better things in life. And it was a very short period of time, right?
Right.
But in both those periods of time, I had talked to a counselor and different church leaders and people that were helping me with the situation. And both people in two different issues both looked to me and said, at the end of the day, it's up to you and what you feel like you deserve.
Amen.
You will push through it, whether you're happy or not. We know you. That's going to be a thing. But it's up to you to decide, are you worth more and do you feel like you can love better?
Right.
And they said, so until you decide that, you're going to sit in the same situations that you're in.
And find it again
but both
and
of them
again.
looked at me and said, it's up to you as to how long you want to live like this and truly be happy.
Right. And then before wrapping this up, I wanted to just circle back to what you had brought up earlier when you said just barely the cycle will find you over and over and over again. And I love that you said in the beginning, there were things that I could have changed. And this isn't the podcast where we're hating on the husbands, because there's probably a million of those somewhere else. But, but I love that you say, like, the experience for me, it found me in different ways the same way. And it kept saying the same thing. Like, your self-esteem is so low that you'll take anybody that says, I love you.
Exactly.
And that was just where I was at. That may not be your story, but I was just at such a low point where the first I love you felt so much of a void that I didn't know was there. And it wasn't until being single that I was able to attract another relationship where it's effortless and it's easy.
Yep.
And
100%.
What was your experience of that since being able to step back and look at the experience now? How are you processing?
I agree with you. You'll actually see there's scientific proof that people who are married multiple times, the first time is usually long, the second time is usually very short, and the third time typically sticks. And it's for that exact reason. If you've gone in your first marriage for as long as you have, the last 2 years of your marriage, you're typically not really in love anymore. You're not. You're just dealing with each other. You're deciding if it's worth sticking around. You don't really fight when you're to that point. Mm-hmm. So when you go out into the dating world and you experience people who have more interests, it actually may seem like normal interest, but because you've been with someone who made you so unhappy, it's like the best thing in the whole world.
So you
right, it is.
Yeah.
You grab it and you run
with it.
And it's this whole new type of love. And I agree, that was something that hit me hard
right.
with my last spouse, is I hadn't been loved in that way in years.
Right, and it felt so
And it was so great.
good.
Mind you, we really did love each other, and I married him for a lot of really great reasons. But at the end of the day, I think for both of us, it was like we filled each other's voids that we had been hurting for so long.
Right.
But the voids we were filling were temporary because they were going to be filled by ourselves, and we didn't realize that.
Yeah.
We felt like those voids were only capable of being filled by each other until we were married, and we realized, I'm cool with me now. So
right. I don't need you to be the Band-Aid.
Exactly. What void are we filling anymore? And we didn't really have that foundation.
Yeah, because
we didn't stay together long enough just dating to fill those voids for ourselves, and then be like, what are we giving each other? Not what are we filling for each other, now what are we giving to add on to each other's lives?
And this is really bold, but I see a lot of people, especially women, that come to me and I said, you're not in a relationship, you're in a contract. Mm-hmm. And this is a really bold thing to just open and talk about openly, but we're adults. It's almost like this premise of, you give me sex and then I'll pay the bills. And it's like that contract of, well, I have wounds. If you don't rub me wrong and don't say this and don't do this, and by the way, do this, then fine. I don't have to feel, right? Yeah, and then if you don't rub me wrong, like, it's almost like we're protecting each other's wounds. And so we think when they do show up and there are fights, that something is madly wrong, because we're not taught that love actually is a healing journey.
It is,
right?
100%. And it's not, love isn't filling spaces that you need filled by someone else.
Right.
Love is finding yourself, building your own foundation, and then just sharing that with somebody else afterwards.
Right.
And topping off your foundation. It's like ice cream, right? You have the ice cream base. Then you have all the sprinkles and sugar that makes you.
You just be the
and
cherry.
And then the whipped cream on top of the cherry is that final portion, because at that point, it's just sweet.
It's just sweet, and it's easy.
The foundation is there. It all tastes great. Now you're just enjoying the best part of it with somebody.
And it was worth it.
And you're adding on to it. Now, mind you, it's going to melt. You're going to have bad days. And the honeymoon phase gets over, and you're like, do I have to live with you now? I have to share my room with you?
I didn't know you had those routines.
Right, exactly. Right. But that's all part of the process. And every marriage goes through a space where you get bored. But that's when you go back to the beginning. Why did I fall in love with you? Why did I go on those dates? What did we do to build that foundation? And you have to relive that and do that. And because we live in a world where it's too easy when you get bored to move on, that we forget to redate. We forget to do all those things, and then we fall out of love.
Like you said, it's the world saying, hey, go chase again. Don't be committed. You got chase or you got commitment. Commitment's boring. Chase is the shiny
it's
thing.
It's the high right now. It's the drug.
Yeah. Well, I love that. Thank you for sharing. And before just exiting and, finishing this up, I just, from your experience of going through what's been the darkest night of your soul and feeling like, holy crap, like I'm 25, I've been divorced twice, now what? And you have an awareness that says, okay, I need to love myself, and I get to. Awesome. For you, for women that don't know how to love themselves, for you, what does that look like? What does self-love look like for you?
Oh my gosh. I don't live in a box. If anyone knows me, if you put me in a box, I'll probably die. I'll find a way to die inside the box. Okay, I live outside the box. I do 100 different things at one time, and I thrive. And I can tell you, for the first time, I have 10 doors in front of me, and instead of picking one, I'm going to go through every single door at least twice.
Curiosity. Yeah.
And it's the fact that all of a sudden, I don't have, and it sounds terrible, but I don't have anyone to rely on back at home. Mm-hmm. It's just me. I have to rely on myself now. Yes. I have to rely on everything I need for me. But the joy of that is I get to experience what only I like.
Love that.
And so for me, like, what's next in life isn't necessarily a spouse right now.
Yeah.
It's me moving. It's me trying new jobs, new education structures. And it's not because I'm all over the place, I don't know where I want to go, but it's me living day to day with what I love today and what I love tomorrow. Not what I love 5 years down the road. I've always been a 10 years down the road kind of a person, and I haven't lived because of that. So right now, it's just waking up saying, what makes me happy today?
What feeds my soul today?
For the women who don't know that, who sit here and can't find the love and sit there and crying every day, what do you need today? Not what you need in 5 years to rebuild your broken heart. You're broken. That's obvious.
Yeah.
What do you need today to feel not broken just for those 12 hours?
Right. I love that. Being in the now.
And by doing that, in the next couple months, you'll naturally regain those goals to build for the next couple years. And those goals will gain again. It's okay to sit here for one day and be like, I don't have any goals today. I just want to eat food and be happy.
Yep. And then tomorrow it changes, right? The evolution, giving yourself permission to be where you are. That's so beautiful. I love that. And I think what you said is amazing, because you said, I don't have anyone waiting back at home. And I think from two divorced women on a podcast, I think you could agree that it doesn't matter if you travel and go to a different state or go try new things. Like, home is with you. Home's your heart.
It's your place.
It's your heart. It's where you're at. It doesn't necessarily have to be a physical entity and like where the roof is and the meals are made, but home is where you're aligned with your heart. It's what your truth is. It's where your passions lie. It's just following that nudge that says, hey, like, go live your life. There's so many opportunities, and I love that.
Just do you.
Yeah, just do you.
Just enjoy. And I promise, once you do you enough and you found your own self-love and people see that person will come into life. Whether it's now or 10 years down the road, if you truly love yourself and put out there that you're happy with life, life will find you a person.
Right. Yeah. And it's interesting. You have to give love to and be loved to receive it. And I think before we were recording this podcast, we were talking about just how interesting it is when you start to love yourself, you're attracting 10, 20, 15 men. Good for you. But it's because you love yourself. And again, that just goes to prove, like,
it radiates.
Like, everyone
benefits.
There's not enough
self-love in the world that when it radiates, everyone attacks it, right? It's like starving. You'll take any piece of food you can get.
Yeah.
So, and that's the case. You now have to be careful, because now that you radiate that love, everyone is going to be attracted to it. So now you got to pick out what they have that radiates back.
And because you've been asking what you deserve, you're very clear.
Yeah, but you know what you want.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I have enjoyed so much learning from your journey and your experience, and I know that it's going to touch someone's heart who, I don't care how old you are, 19 or 18 or however many years you've lived, if you've been divorced or you're in a toxic relationship or you're thinking about getting married, really just I think we can sum up with the idea that self-love is super important, and that's your foundation. So I will leave a link in the comments. We are going to let you, I guess, just binge on what we've shared. And if you have any comments, reach out. And I hope you have an awesome Wednesday. Thanks, Brittany.
Yep. See you guys.
That was so fun.
That was awesome.
So that's all we have for today's episode. And I know that there are so many people struggling with the idea of relationships, and divorce rates are incredibly high, higher than they've ever been. And really, if you get anything from today, it's that you can always count on you. You can always learn to trust you. You can always learn to better your life at any moment and to give yourself permission to restart. Okay, we're human and we're learning, and it really comes down to perspective. You can see it as a trauma and pain you'll never get past, or you can see it as a journey. I do a self-discovery call where we can find out if we're a good fit for each other. I know that I have decided to commit my soul's mission to helping people in general, not just women, fall in love with themselves again, to actually love who they are authentically, behind the masks and idea and the pressures of society and what you've been told you need to be in order to be loved. And what I've learned, like I'm sure Britt has, is that love is unconditional. And you really get to be compassionate with yourself and really get to feed yourself the things you're looking for from other people. And it's not easy. It's not something that people will choose into. But sometimes you go through a hard experience to help you understand this message that's being shared. So don't learn the hard way. Choose you always. You're worth it. You're loved. You're incredible. You're amazing. And just be you. Being you is so okay. Just believe that you're worth it, okay? You're divine, you're worthy, you're whole, and nothing's wrong with you. You're not broken. You're just becoming aware of some really awesome things that we weren't taught in high school. Thank gosh. Welcome to the real world. So again, I will leave a link below. If we're a good fit to work together, go fill that out now. Let's get in a phone call and really just figure out where we can better your life and where we can up level and where we can, shine and really just take back our self-worth and where we can align with our truths. So I'm excited for you and I hope you have an amazing Wednesday.